This is the first class of at least 4 sessions. Now's your opportunity to help your students become more comfortable with the subject and its language. Hopefully, you've already done some work on your own comfort level. Depending on the school, some teachers will have more time than others to devote to puberty classes. You can adjust the exercises to fit the amount of time you have. We suggest 30 minutes to 1 hour for the first session. What you end up doing also depends on whether it's the first time the students are having puberty classes, as well as how mature they are or aren't.
In this first class, which is the Introduction to Puberty, if you're teaching students from another group, start by finding out if everybody knows why you're there. If the class doesn't know you well, of course, you'll want to introduce yourself and explain why you're teaching this unit. Even if you know the group well, you can start with a warm-up. We call this one Stand Up. For instance, stand up if you've seen anything live born. There are a list of suggested questions in the Changes Manual. Whatever questions you use, they need to be engaging, give you more information about the group, and not single anyone out. Make sure everyone gets a chance to stand up. Having a list of agreed-upon guidelines is very important. There's often a list already posted in the class, so review these and add a few more important ones. There are 3 key rules that I want to make sure everybody is clear about. First, show respect. That means no put-downs, no rolling your eyes. I don't want anybody to feel badly in this class, because how does it make you feel when someone does that to you? Right, maybe embarrassed, a little bit shy, and this class is all about feeling comfortable. No names. If you're telling a story, please don't include the name of the person who's part of the story. Your brother doesn't want everyone in this class knowing his business. So what can you do? Right, you can just keep it anonymous, say somebody I know. And finally, no personal questions. I'm not here to talk about my private life, and I'm not going to be asking you questions about your private or personal life either. So, puberty. Who can tell me what that means? At this point, you can read out a definition of puberty. Make sure to include when it happens, how it happens, and that you can't speed it up or slow it down. Depending on the group, at this point I might offer an apology. I find it puts some of the group at ease. Sorry if any of this material I'll be sharing with you makes you feel uncomfortable. I think it's better, though, that you know the real deal than be fuzzy on the facts and be left guessing. You'll be amazed by the end of the 5 classes how much more comfortable you feel. There are lots of students and some staff who would prefer single-gender classes. While this is appropriate at some point, we do most of our lessons with boys and girls together. There are several reasons for doing mixed groups. This includes we live together in the same world. They also can learn that they're not so different from each other. And if and when they start to date, they need to be comfortable talking about feelings and bodies and how all that works with both genders. While some of you have heard lots on this topic, some of you not so much. That's why we all learn about it in school together. Explore with the class where they get their information about puberty, bodies, babies, and relationships. You can develop a list like this. Under the Computer Internet section, ask for rules about safe computer use. Reinforce that they should never be giving out personal details such as their name or number. Pop-ups from porn sites can appear. Remind them to turn off the monitor and ask for help. Ask about webcam use and caution them about potential dangers. If the class has already had some puberty education, you can quickly review the guidelines, tell them why they need to be learning more, and give a quiz. You can then collect the quiz and take it up in this first class. This is also a good opportunity to have students write questions at the bottom of that quiz. Later, you can sort them out and answer them in the appropriate class. For instance, when you're talking about periods, do that in the girls' class, rather than leave everything to the last class. At this time of life, lots of important things happen. Physically, you can reproduce, make a baby. Of course, just because you're able to make a baby doesn't mean that you're ready or that it's a good time. Ask the class what people need to consider before having a baby. This chat reassures parents and other adults who think that by talking about sex, we're encouraging kids to run out and do it. During these classes, I'll often refer to people making babies. Well, as you know at this point, not everybody can make babies. There is a difference between making babies and parenting. If someone wants to be a parent and they can't make their own child, they can adopt. If someone has had a baby and they don't want to or don't feel able to be a parent, someone else can adopt their child. Another important thing that happens during this time is you become more mature, mentally, physically, socially, and some would say spiritually. You'll find you become more aware of your sexual feelings and attractions. You start to become more independent from the adults who are raising you. You have more of your own opinions. You want to spend more time both on your own and with some of your friends. In terms of this big change of puberty, it's actually the third time of rapid change in your life. The first stage of change is when you go from a single cell to billions of cells 9 months later. The second time of rapid change in your life is from that time to your first birthday. And after that comes puberty. The changes at puberty are actually more mild, but you're much more aware of them than you were when you were little. This explanation helps students see puberty as part of the cycle of life. It also includes those who have not yet started to show any signs. Next, I do a language exercise. It gets the giggles out, which is part of the point. Plus, it gives us a common language to use throughout the classes. I explain there are 4 kinds of words for private body parts and functions: dictionary, childhood, polite, and slang. Whatever words you use, make sure it's common to both genders. You can refer to the Changes Manual for the full exercise. Somewhere in this first class, I describe a simple version of reproduction. I find that kids are just waiting to hear this explanation. Again, this puts it in the context of other living things, so they see it as natural rather than nasty. As you know, all living things reproduce, including humans. Let's talk about something simple like plants. In the flower part of the plant, there's an ovary, and that's where the female has the eggs. In the male part of the plant, well, there's a sex cell that's made that's often quite bothersome to people. It floats through the air, irritates people's eyes. What's that called? Right, pollen. Can cause allergies. So when the pollen joins with the sex cell in the female part of the plant, the egg, it's fertilized, and that's a very, very important part of reproduction. Now with fish, the female fish will swim along and she will deposit her eggs on the bottom of the river or lake. She swims off then. The male fish swims along, he deposits his sperm on top of those, and then he swims off. Again, fertilization happens, and after a while, minnows will be hatched from those eggs. You can spend some time talking about the eggs we buy. For instance, could the eggs in the fridge ever hatch? People this age love the topic of fetal development, so it's up to you to add as much or little as you want. With birds, we see birds fluttering around, but we don't really pay attention to what they're doing. Some of what they're doing is mating or reproducing. So the male bird will try and get the female's attention. You might see pigeons doing their fancy dance, and then he will mount the back of her, and in that mating time, sperm go into her body and fertilize the egg that's inside her body already. Now with mammals such as dogs, you've all seen dogs trying to mate, and so you have some idea of what that's about. The male dog will mount the back of the female dog, his penis will slip into the vagina, I know it's kind of funny, and he will release his sperm at that point into her body, and then later on, puppies will be born. With humans, we don't call it mating, we call it sexual intercourse. Usually that's shortened to sex. It can also be called sleeping together or even doing it. For humans, it's more than just reproduction. It's got to do with sharing ourselves with someone else, and it's also got to do with having a good feeling for ourselves and the other person. Okay, you can relax. We've heard all that about reproduction. Now take a deep breath. If you haven't already, now's a good time to have the students write down their questions and comments. At the end of class, encourage students when they go home to talk to people about the class if they feel comfortable. They can ask family members how and when they learned about puberty. You can also discuss why some adults might be quite hesitant to talk about this subject. And remember to congratulate the group for doing a great job with this first lesson.